Princess Lyra stood in the Grand Council chamber and tried not to cry. Her lavender skin felt cold under the bright lights. Around her, aliens from 12 different worlds watched and whispered. She knew what they were saying. She had heard it all before. The ambassador from the home world stepped forward. He was tall and covered in green scales. His 3 eyes blinked slowly as he spoke. Princess Lyra, you are beautiful and intelligent. Your family is noble and your planet is rich in history. But my people need heirs. We need children to continue our bloodline. I am sorry, but I must decline this marriage. It was the 5th rejection in 5 months. Lyra kept her face calm, but inside her heart was breaking. She bowed her head with dignity. I understand. Thank you for your time. The ambassador left. The other aliens in the chamber began to leave too. Soon, only Lyra and her father remained. Emperor Thane walked to his daughter and put his hand on her shoulder. His silver hair matched hers, but his face looked much older than it had a year ago. We will find someone, he said quietly, but Lyra could hear the doubt in his voice. The problem was simple. When Lyra was 20 years old, she had fallen sick with a rare disease. The doctors saved her life, but the medicine damaged her body. She could never have children. In culture and in most alien cultures across the galaxy, this made her worthless as a wife. Lyra walked to her private chambers. Her room was filled with screens and equipment. While other princesses learned dancing and poetry, Lyra studied science. She was working on a new type of energy that could power spaceships without fuel, but no one cared about her research. They only cared that her body was broken. Far above the planet, on a human military station, Sergeant was getting dressed in his formal uniform. He looked at himself in the mirror and straightened his collar. At 32 years old, he had seen combat on 3 different planets. He had saved dozens of lives as a combat medic. But today, he was nervous. His commanding officer, Captain Park, knocked on his door. "Ready, Sergeant." "As ready as I'll ever be," said. "Do you really think they want to meet with us? Humans have only been part of the Galactic Council for 10 years. Most aliens still think we're primitives." Smiled. "That's exactly why this is important. The Empire wants to talk about an alliance. If we can make this work, it changes everything for Earth." Nodded. He had read the briefing files. He knew about Princess Lyra and her situation. The file said she was infertile and therefore undesirable for political marriage. The cold, clinical language had bothered him. It reminded him of his younger sister. She had been told she couldn't have children because of a medical problem. Had seen how people treated her differently after that, as if she was less than other women. The shuttle ride to the planet's surface was smooth. Looked out the window at the purple and blue clouds. Was beautiful. The palace was even more impressive. It was made of white stone that seemed to glow in the sunlight. Guards with energy weapons stood at every door. Emperor Thane greeted them in a formal reception room. He was polite but tired. Next to him stood Princess Lyra. Had seen her picture in the files, but the images didn't capture how intelligent her eyes were. She looked at him with curiosity, but also with the wariness of someone who had been hurt many times. "Sergeant," the Emperor said, "thank you for coming. I will be direct. Our empire needs allies. We have resources, but our location in space is dangerous. Without strong partnerships, we cannot survive. Marriage has always been how we forge these bonds." Lyra spoke for the first time. Her voice was clear and strong. "My father wants you to know that I cannot have children. Every other race has rejected me because of this. He hopes that humans might see things differently." Met her eyes. "May I speak freely, Your Highness?" She nodded, surprised. "I read your file," said. "It mentioned your infertility in the first line. It mentioned your scientific research in the last paragraph, almost like an afterthought. That seems backward to me. Your energy research could change the entire galaxy. Having children is important to many people, but it's not the only thing that makes a life meaningful." Lyra stared at him. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. Emperor Thane cleared his throat. Perhaps you two should speak privately, get to know each other. The palace gardens were filled with flowers that glowed softly in the evening light. Lyra and walked side by side on a white stone path. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Finally, Lyra said, "You don't have to be kind to me. I know this is about politics." "It is about politics," admitted. "Earth needs allies. Your empire needs partners. But that doesn't mean we can't be honest with each other." "Honest?" Lyra laughed bitterly. "Then honestly, why would you even consider this? You could marry a human woman. You could have your own children. You could have a normal life." Stopped walking. He turned to face her. "My sister can't have children either. When people found out, some of them acted like her life was over, like she had failed at being a woman. It made me angry. She's a doctor now. She saves lives every day. She's happy. She has friends and a career and a life full of meaning. Just because it's not the life other people expected doesn't make it less valuable." Lyra felt tears building in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "You're very different from the other aliens I've met." "I'm human," said with a small smile. "We're weird like that. We adopt kids who aren't related to us. We take care of elderly parents who can't work anymore. We marry for love, not just for making bobbies. Some humans don't want children at all, and that's okay too. We build all kinds of families." "That sounds wonderful," Lyra whispered. "I wish culture was like that." "Maybe it can be," said. "Maybe that's what this alliance could really mean. Not just trade agreements and military support. Maybe we can show each other different ways to live." They walked for another hour, talking about their lives and their dreams. Lyra told him about her energy research and how it worked, told her about growing up on Earth and deciding to become a medic. By the time they returned to the palace, something had changed between them. They weren't strangers anymore. That night sent a message to Captain. It was short and simple. "I'm interested in pursuing this alliance. Request permission to continue negotiations." His response came back quickly. "Permission granted. Don't do anything stupid." Smiled at the screen. He was probably about to do something very stupid, but for the first time in a long time, he felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The next morning woke up early. He couldn't sleep. His mind was full of questions. Was he really going to marry an alien princess? What would his family say? What would his friends think? But every time doubt crept in, he remembered the look in Lyra's eyes when he talked about his sister. He remembered how her face lit up when she explained her scientific work. She was more than her medical condition. She deserved someone who saw that. Lyra met him in the palace library. The room was enormous, filled with books and data tablets from hundreds of worlds. She looked nervous but determined. "I didn't think you would come back," she said quietly. "Why wouldn't I?" asked. "Because everyone leaves eventually. They realize what they're giving up and they leave." Sat down across from her. "I spent last night thinking about this. I thought about the political benefits for Earth. I thought about what my commanding officers would say, but mostly I thought about whether I could imagine spending my life with you." Lyra's breath caught, and I think I could. I think we could build something good together, not just a political alliance, a real partnership. "But you barely know me," Lyra protested. "That's true," agreed. "But I know enough. I know you're brilliant. I know you care about things that matter. I know you've been hurt, but you haven't let it make you cruel. That's more than I knew about most people before I became friends with them." Over the next 2 weeks, and Lyra spent every day together. She showed him her laboratory, explaining her energy research in detail. He was impressed by how complex it was. The energy source she was developing could power entire cities without pollution or waste. It could make space travel faster and cheaper. It could change everything. "Why do you keep this secret?" asked. "This is incredible work." Lyra's face fell. "Because in culture, princesses are not supposed to be scientists. We are supposed to look beautiful and produce heirs. My father allows me to do this research, but he cannot support it publicly. It would be seen as inappropriate. That's ridiculous, said bluntly. Lyra smiled sadly. I agree, but changing a culture takes time. Told her about Earth. He explained how humans had fought wars and struggled with prejudice. He told her about the civil rights movements, the gender equality battles, and the long journey toward accepting all kinds of people and families. We're not perfect, he said. We still have problems, but we've learned that diversity makes us stronger, not weaker. One afternoon, they were walking through the market district of the capital city, wanted to see how ordinary lived. The market was busy and colorful. Vendors sold food, cloth, and technology, but noticed that people stared at Lyra. Some whispered. A few even looked at her with pity. Does this happen often? Asked. Every time I leave the palace, Lyra said. Her voice was tight. Everyone knows about my condition. I am the princess who failed. Took her hand. The gesture surprised both of them. In culture, public displays of affection were rare, but didn't care. You haven't failed at anything, he said firmly. These people are wrong. That night made his decision. He called Captain and told her he wanted to formally accept the marriage proposal. Was quiet for a long moment. Are you sure about this? This isn't just a mission. This is your life. I'm sure, said, I really am. The next day, he asked to speak with Emperor Thane and Princess Lyra together. In the throne room, he stood before them and spoke clearly. Your Majesty, Your Highness, I formally request permission to marry Princess Lyra. I understand this will be a political alliance between our peoples, but I also want you both to know that I genuinely care about Lyra as a person. I will do my best to be a good husband to her and a good representative of Earth. Emperor Thane looked stunned. He had hoped for this, but he hadn't truly believed it would happen. You honor us, Sergeant. I accept on behalf of the Empire. But Lyra stood up quickly. I need to speak with alone. In the garden, she turned to face him. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears. Why are you really doing this? Please tell me the truth. Is it only for the political alliance? Is it pity? What is it? Thought carefully before answering. It started as political. I won't lie about that. Earth needs this alliance. But over these past 2 weeks, I've gotten to know you. I like who you are. I like talking to you. I like how passionate you are about your work. I like how you've stayed kind even though life has been cruel to you. He took a breath. I can't promise you romantic love right now. I don't know you well enough yet for that, but I can promise you respect, honesty, and partnership. I can promise that I will never treat you as less than you are. And maybe, over time, we can build something real together. Lyra wiped her eyes. No one has ever been this honest with me before. I figure if we're going to do this, we should start with truth, said. She smiled then, really smiled. Okay, yes, let's do this. The engagement was announced the next day. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Humans had accepted what every other race had rejected. Some aliens were confused. Some were suspicious. The ambassador sent a message saying that humans must be ignorant of proper genetic protocols. But Sister sent him a video message from Earth. She was crying and smiling at the same time. I'm so proud of you, big brother. You're showing the whole galaxy that we're worth more than our biology. Thank you. That message made everything worth it. Wedding preparations began immediately. Lyra and spent their days planning the ceremony and their nights talking about the future. They discussed where they would live, how they would split their time between his military duties and her research, and what kind of life they wanted to build. I want to make my research public after the wedding, Lyra said one night. I want to share it with everyone. That's brave, said. I learned it from you, she replied. You've shown me that hiding who I am doesn't protect me. It just makes me smaller. 3 months passed quickly. His family arrived from Earth. His parents were nervous but kind. His sister and Lyra became instant friends. They talked for hours about science and medicine, and what it meant to be told your body wasn't good enough. His best friend arrived with the rest of his military unit. They teased about marrying a princess, but they were also protective. They had fought beside him. They trusted his judgment. The night before the wedding, couldn't sleep. He went to the garden and found Lyra already there, sitting by the glowing flowers. "Nervous?" she asked. "Terrified," he admitted. "Me too." They sat in silence for a while, watching the stars. "Tomorrow changes everything," Lyra said softly. "I know," replied, "but I think it's going to be good, different but good." "I hope you're right," Lyra said. Then she added, "Thank you for giving me a chance when no one else would." "You're worth taking a chance on," he said simply. And in that moment, under alien stars, they both believed it might actually be true. The wedding day arrived with perfect weather. The sky was a brilliant purple blue, and the twin suns cast a warm golden light over the palace grounds. Thousands of guests filled the ceremonial hall. There were nobles in their finest robes, human dignitaries in formal suits, and ambassadors from dozens of alien worlds. Stood at the altar wearing a blend of inhuman ceremonial dress. His hands were sweating, but he kept his face calm. His friend stood beside him as his best man. "You can still run," whispered jokingly. "I've got a shuttle ready." Smiled, "Not a chance." Music began to play. It was a traditional song, slow and haunting. Princess Lyra appeared at the entrance. She wore a flowing white dress that shimmered with tiny lights. Her silver hair was decorated with crystals. She looked beautiful, but more than that, she looked happy. That was what made his heart skip. As she walked down the aisle, could hear whispers from the alien guests. Not all of them were kind. The ambassador who had rejected Lyra sat near the front, his face unreadable. Representatives from the hive watched with barely concealed contempt. The ceremony was long. There were rituals and human traditions mixed together. They exchanged vows in both languages. When it was time for to speak, he looked directly at Lyra. "I promise to stand beside you, to support your dreams, and to value you for who you are, not what others expect you to be. I promise to be honest, loyal, and kind. And I promise that we will face whatever comes next together." Lyra's voice shook slightly as she spoke her vows. "I promise to trust you, to work with you, and to build a new future together. I promise to honor both our cultures and to never forget that you chose me when others would not. Thank you for seeing me." When they sealed the vows with a traditional hand binding and a human kiss, the crowd erupted in applause. It was done. They were married. The reception was held in the palace's grand ballroom. Food from a dozen worlds was served. Music played. People danced. For a few hours, everything was perfect. Then Ambassador of the Hive stood up. The room gradually fell silent. Was a large creature with gray skin and 4 arms. His species valued strength and genetic purity above all else. "I must speak," announced loudly. "This ceremony was beautiful, but I cannot stay silent. This marriage is a mockery. The princess cannot produce heirs. The human has accepted what is essentially a business transaction. There is no honor in this union. I question the human's true motives." The room went completely silent. Lyra's face went pale. Emperor Thane started to stand but raised his hand slightly, asking him to wait. Stood slowly. He walked to the center of the room. His voice was calm but firm. "Ambassador, you're right about one thing. I do have motives. Let me tell you what they are." He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of the various aliens. "I want a partner who challenges me to think differently. I want someone who shares my values of curiosity and compassion. I want to build a life that means something beyond just passing on DNA. If those are suspicious motives, then yes, I'm guilty." He continued, "In human culture, we have many definitions of family. We adopt children who have no blood connection to us, and we love them as our own. We care for elderly parents who can no longer work. We marry for love and partnership, not just for reproduction. Some humans choose not to have children at all, and we don't consider them failures. His voice grew stronger. We're not weaker because of this. We're stronger. We don't throw people away when they can't serve one narrow function. Every person has value. Every life has meaning. And we're better people because we believe that. Ambassador looked angry. Such sentiment is weakness. In nature, the strong survive and the weak perish. That is the way of the universe. No, said firmly. That's the way of animals. Civilization means rising above nature. It means caring for each other even when it's not convenient. It means seeing value in every individual, not just the ones who fit a narrow definition of useful. Before could respond, Princess Lyra stood. She walked to his side. When she spoke, her voice rang clear through the hall. I have been silent about my shame for too long, but I realize now that I have nothing to be ashamed of. My body cannot produce children, but my mind has produced research that could transform the galaxy. After today, I will be making that research public. Gasps echoed through the room. Emperor Thane looked shocked. Lyra continued. I am establishing a public research institute for renewable energy. It will be open to scientists from all species. Anyone with talent and dedication will be welcome, regardless of their gender, their biology, or their social status. Furthermore, I will be advocating for social reform in the Empire. No one should be judged solely on their ability to reproduce. The room erupted in chaos. Some aliens were outraged, others looked thoughtful. The nobles whispered frantically among themselves, but human colleagues started clapping. Slowly, some of the younger joined in. Even a few aliens from progressive worlds added their applause. Ambassador stormed out of the reception, his delegation following behind him. But Lyra stood together, hand in hand, facing the crowd without fear. That night, alone in their chambers for the first time as husband and wife, they both collapsed onto the furniture, exhausted. I can't believe I said all that, Lyra said, half laughing and half crying. My father is going to be furious. He looked pretty surprised, admitted, but I think he was also proud. Do you really believe what you said? Lyra asked, about everyone having value. Absolutely, said without hesitation. My sister proved it to me. You're proving it now. The galaxy has been running on the same rules for thousands of years. Maybe it's time for some new ideas. Lyra moved closer to him on the couch. I was so scared today. When stood up, I wanted to run away and hide. But you didn't, said. You stood up and spoke your truth. That took courage. I learned it from watching you, she said softly. They talked late into the night about the day, about their fears, about their hopes. At some point, Lyra fell asleep with her head on shoulder. He looked down at her peaceful face and realized something important. This had started as a political arrangement, but it was becoming something real. He was starting to care about her, deeply and truly. Whatever challenges came next, they would face them together. And maybe, just maybe, they really could change the galaxy's mind about what made a life valuable. Life after the wedding was busier than either or Lyra expected. The announcement of the Research Institute created waves throughout the Empire. Some people supported it. Others called it a waste of resources. Lyra worked long hours getting the facility ready, interviewing scientists, and setting up equipment. Continued his duties as a military liaison, but he also took on a new role as an unofficial ambassador between Earth and. He spent his days in meetings, working on trade agreements and cultural exchange programs. In the evenings, he and Lyra would meet and share their days over dinner. 6 months into their marriage, things were going well. The Research Institute was attracting brilliant minds from across the galaxy. Lyra's energy project was making real progress. She and her team had created a prototype device that could power a small city using zero-point energy extraction. The test was successful. If they could scale it up, it would revolutionize space travel and planetary development. Then one evening, received an urgent message from his colleague, Lieutenant Sora Nam. She worked in communications and intelligence. Her message was coded and marked as classified. Read it 3 times to make sure he understood. Then he felt sick. There was a plot to assassinate Emperor Thane. The plan was being orchestrated by a radical faction of nobles who hated the progressive changes. They thought Lyra's marriage to a human was a humiliation. They wanted to kill the emperor and install a new leader who would reject the human alliance and return to traditional ways. But that wasn't all. The intelligence suggested that the Hive was funding and supporting the radical faction. Ambassador hadn't forgotten his humiliation at the wedding. He wanted revenge, and he wanted to break the Earth Alliance. The assassination was planned for 2 days from now, during a public ceremony. Immediately contacted Captain Park. They met in a secure location along with several other human officers. Lieutenant Sara Nam was there too, looking worried. "How solid is this intelligence?" Captain asked. "Very solid," Sara replied. "I've confirmed it through 3 independent sources. They are definitely involved and the attack is definitely planned." "We need to tell Emperor Thane immediately," said. "I already did," Sora said quietly. "He told me to do nothing." Everyone stared at her. "What?" asked. "The Emperor says if we expose the plot publicly, it will reveal the radical faction's size and support. It could trigger a civil war. He has his own security plans. He's willing to risk his life to avoid bloodshed." Felt anger rising in his chest. "That's insane. We can't just let him walk into an assassination attempt." "He's the Emperor," said. "If he's given an order, we have to follow it." But couldn't accept that. He thought about Lyra, about how she would feel if she lost her father. He thought about the Empire falling into chaos. He thought about all the good work that would be destroyed. That night he told Lyra everything. She was terrified. "My father knows," she asked, her voice shaking, "and he's going to let it happen." "He thinks it's the best way to avoid a civil war," said. "That's stupid," Lyra shouted. "He can't just die. I can't lose him." Held her while she cried. Then he made a decision. "I'm not going to let this happen. I'm going to stop it." "How?" Lyra asked. "I have an idea, but it's risky." Over the next day and a half, worked with his closest human colleagues to develop a plan. Who had been training with security forces, had access to information about the radical faction's operations. They knew where the group was meeting and planning. His idea was simple but dangerous. Instead of preventing the assassination attempt directly, they would infiltrate the radical faction's base and gather evidence of involvement. If they could prove that they were manipulating citizens, it would destroy the radicals' credibility and expose treachery to the Galactic Council. Captain didn't like the plan. "This is a huge risk. If it goes wrong, it could start a war. If we do nothing, the Emperor dies and there's probably a war anyway," argued. "This way, we have a chance to save him and stop the violence." They assembled a small team. Sara and 3 other human special forces soldiers. They spent hours studying the layout of the compound where the radicals were meeting. They planned their entry and exit routes. They prepared non-lethal weapons because insisted they couldn't kill citizens, even radical ones. The night before the operation, couldn't sleep. Lyra was beside him, also awake. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too," he admitted. "Come back to me," she said. "Whatever happens, come back." "I will," he promised. The next morning, the team moved in. The compound was on the outskirts of the capital city. It looked like an abandoned warehouse from the outside. Inside, it was full of weapons and communication equipment. The team moved silently through the building. They avoided guards and security systems, led them to a central office where the planning was taking place. Through a window, they could see 3 nobles talking with an operative. Sara set up recording equipment. They captured everything: the giving orders, the receiving payment, the entire assassination plan laid out in detail. They had the evidence they needed. Now they just had to get out. But as they were leaving, a guard spotted them. Alarms blared. Suddenly, the entire compound was awake and angry. The team fought their way out using stun weapons and smoke grenades. Took point, his medical training helping him move efficiently through the chaos. But in the final corridor, a radical soldier appeared with a weapon. He was young, maybe 19. He looked terrified. The soldier fired. The shot wasn't aimed at but at a security guard who had been forced to work with the radicals. The guard was innocent, just trying to survive. Didn't think, he threw himself in front of the guard. The energy blast hit his leg. The pain was incredible. He fell hard. Grabbed him and dragged him toward the exit. The rest of the team provided cover. They made it to their shuttle and escaped just as more radicals arrived. On the shuttle, Sora worked to stop bleeding. The energy blast had burned through muscle and bone. His leg was badly damaged. "Stay awake," she kept saying. "Stay with us." At the military station, doctors worked on him for hours. When he finally woke up, Lyra was sitting beside his bed. Her eyes were red from crying. "You idiot," she said, her voice breaking. "You beautiful, brave idiot." "Did we get the evidence?" he asked weakly. "Yes," she said. "My father presented it to the Galactic Council 3 hours ago. Ambassador has been expelled. The Hive is facing sanctions. The radical faction collapsed when everyone learned they were foreign puppets. You did it." "Good," said then. "How bad is my leg?" Lyra hesitated. "The doctor saved it, but the damage was severe. You'll have a permanent limp. Your military career is over. I'm so sorry." Was quiet for a moment. He had been a soldier for 8 years. It was a huge part of his identity. But as he looked at Lyra's face, he realized something. He had other purposes now, other reasons to be alive. "It's okay," he said finally. "I can find new ways to serve." Lyra took his hand. "You already have. You saved my father. You saved the Empire. You saved me." Emperor Thane visited later that day. He looked at with deep respect. "You disobeyed my orders," he said. "Yes, sir," replied. "I'm sorry, but I couldn't let you die." The Emperor smiled slightly. "Don't apologize for being brave. You found a solution that I couldn't see. You protected lives on all sides. That is the mark of true wisdom." He paused. "When you recover, I would like to offer you a position as the official human ambassador too. We need your kind of thinking." After the Emperor left, Lyra climbed carefully into the hospital bed beside. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Lying next to my husband," she said simply. "You almost died protecting my father. The least I can do is keep you company while you heal." They lay there in comfortable silence, and realized that somewhere along the way, this arrangement had become real love. Recovery was slow and painful. Spent 6 weeks in physical therapy, learning to walk with his injured leg. The doctors said he was lucky to keep the leg at all. The energy blast had come close to requiring amputation, but human medical technology combined with healing techniques saved it. Lyra was there every day during his recovery. She would sit with him during the painful therapy sessions, holding his hand when it hurt too much. At night, she would read to him from scientific journals or tell him about her day at the Research Institute. "You don't have to spend all your time here," told her one afternoon. "You have important work." "You are important work," she replied simply. During those weeks, their relationship deepened in ways neither expected. They talked about everything. Their fears, their dreams, their childhoods, their mistakes. They learned each other's habits and quirks. Lyra discovered that hummed when he was thinking. Learned that Lyra couldn't sleep without a night light because she was afraid of the dark. One night as they sat together in the hospital room, Lyra said quietly, "I love you." Looked at her in surprise. "What?" "I love you," she repeated, meeting his eyes. "I didn't expect to. This was supposed to be a political arrangement, but somewhere along the way you became the most important person in my life. I love you." He pulled her close. I love you too. I think I have for a while now. I was just too scared to say it. They kissed, really kissed, for the first time since their wedding ceremony. It felt like coming home. When was finally released from the hospital, he officially accepted the position as human ambassador too. He couldn't serve as a soldier anymore, but he could serve in other ways. He threw himself into the work, helping negotiate trade agreements, resolving cultural misunderstandings, and building bridges between humanity and the people. Meanwhile, Lyra's research reached a major milestone. Her team successfully tested a full-scale zero-point energy extractor. It could power an entire city block without any fuel. The device was clean, efficient, and revolutionary. But instead of keeping the technology secret or selling it for profit, Lyra did something that shocked the galaxy. She made the plans public. She shared the technology freely with any civilization that wanted it. Why would you give this away? Other scientists asked her. You could have made billions. Because people need this, Lyra replied. Planets are dying from pollution. Ships can't explore distant stars because they run out of fuel. This technology can save lives and open up the universe. That's more valuable than money. It was a very human philosophy, and it came from a princess. The galaxy took notice. 1 year after their marriage, something unexpected happened. A young girl appeared at the palace gates. Her name was, she was 10 years old and alone. Her parents had died in a mining accident. She had no other family, but she had heard about Princess Lyra and her research institute. She wanted to be a scientist. Lyra and met with. The girl was small and thin, with big eyes full of intelligence and hurt. She reminded Lyra of herself at that age, full of dreams that no one took seriously. I want to study energy systems, said shyly. I want to help people like Princess Lyra does. That night, Lyra and talked for hours. We could sponsor her education, Lyra suggested. Make sure she has opportunities. Or we could do something more, said carefully. We could adopt her. Lyra stared at him. Adopt? But that's not done in culture. Royal families don't adopt. Maybe it's time to start, said. We've already changed so many traditions. Why not this one? You wanted to be a mother. I wanted to be a father. Biology doesn't have to be the only way. Tears filled Lyra's eyes. Do you really mean it? Absolutely, said. Let's build the family we want, not the one others expect. The adoption process caused another scandal. Nobles were outraged. How could the princess adopt a common orphan? It was unprecedented. But Emperor Thane, who had learned to trust his daughter's judgment, approved it. Moved into the palace. She was shy at first, but gradually she opened up. She was brilliant with numbers and had a natural gift for engineering. Lyra worked with her every day, teaching her advanced concepts, taught her about human history and philosophy. For the first time, their home felt complete. 2 years later, they adopted again. This time it was a human boy named. He was 8 years old. His parents had died defending a colony from pirates. He had nowhere to go. When heard about him, he knew immediately that belonged with them. Then came a third child, a young boy born with a genetic condition that made his scales grow incorrectly. His own people had abandoned him because he looked different. His name was, and he was 6 years old when Lyra and found him at a refugee center. Their house became loud and chaotic and full of love. 3 children from 3 different species, all unwanted by their birth cultures, all thriving in their new family. Lyra established scholarship programs for orphans and disadvantaged children across multiple species, wrote a book about diplomacy that became required reading at the Galactic Council's Academy. Their work inspired others. Adoption rates increased across several civilizations. Cultural attitudes slowly began to shift. 10 years after their wedding, the palace hosted a huge celebration. Thousands of people attended. Humans and dozens of other species gathered to celebrate a decade of successful alliance. Stood on the stage with Lyra and their 3 children. His legs still hurt on cold days, and he still walked with a slight limp, but he had never been happier. Lyra gave a speech to the crowd. Her voice was strong and clear. 10 years ago, I was told that my life had no value because I couldn't have children. I believed it. I thought I was broken. But a human soldier saw something different. He saw a person, not a function. He saw potential, not limitation. She looked at with love. My husband taught me that family isn't about biology. It's about commitment and love. Today, we stand here with our 3 children. None of them came from my body, but all of them came from my heart, and I wouldn't change anything. Spoke next. Humanity came to the stars to learn and grow. We didn't have all the answers, we still don't. But we brought one important truth with us. Every person has worth. Every life matters. Compassion isn't weakness, it's our greatest strength. He gestured to the crowd. Look around. 10 years ago, many of you thought humans were primitive. You thought our ideas about family and value were naive. But today, adoption is legal on 15 worlds where it wasn't before. Medical support for infertility has improved on dozens of planets. People who were once thrown away are now given chances. This didn't happen because humans are better than anyone else, continued. It happened because we were willing to question old assumptions, because we were willing to imagine a different way. As fireworks lit up the sky in brilliant colors, pulled on Lyra's sleeve. She was 20 now, a talented engineer working on her own energy projects. Mom, she said, she had started calling Lyra that 3 years ago. Thank you for choosing me. Lyra pulled her into a hug. Thank you for letting me be your mother. And ran over, laughing about something. At 18 and 16, they were growing into remarkable young men, wanted to be a diplomat wanted to be a doctor, helping people with genetic conditions like his own. As the family stood together watching the fireworks, felt Lyra slip her hand into his. He squeezed it gently. No regrets, she whispered. Not even one, he replied. Around them, the galaxy celebrated. The infertile princess and the human soldier who said yes had built something beautiful. Not just a family, but a movement. Not just an alliance, but a revolution in thinking. And somewhere on Earth, a young woman who couldn't have children read about Princess Lyra's story and felt hope for the first time in years. Somewhere on a distant planet, an orphan child dreamed of finding a family. Somewhere in the darkness of space, hearts that had been told they were worthless began to believe they mattered. Because 2 people had been brave enough to say that love was stronger than tradition, that family was more than biology, and that every life, no matter how broken it seemed, had infinite value. The galaxy was learning, and it all started with one simple truth. Sometimes the most revolutionary act is choosing to care. The end.